The story of the world isn't just about the countries that are still around today, it's also about hundreds of countries that used to be powerful but then disappeared. Some stopped existing because of wars, others broke apart due to fights within their own borders, and some even changed their names to leave their past behind. Imagine a map from 100, 500 or even 1,000 years ago. It looked totally different from today. Today, I'm going to show you 10 countries that vanished from the map but left behind amazing stories, old buildings and legends. Yugoslavia, that word in Serbo-Croatian, it literally means land of the South Slavs. It was formed after World War I in 1918 and it was first called the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenes. After World War II, so after 1945, it changed into the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. It was made up of 6 republics and 2 areas that had their own special rules. For almost 40 years, the country was led by Josip Broz Tito. He was a very strong leader who was good at keeping a balance between the East and the West. Yugoslavia wasn't part of the Soviet Union and that gave it a lot of freedom. People there lived pretty well, they could travel, and they had access to Western culture. For many people in other socialist countries, this was just a dream. But after Tito passed away in 1980, problems between different groups of people started to grow. In the 1990s, the bloody Balkan Wars broke out. TV stations all over the world showed pictures of Sarajevo under attack, people being forced out of their homes, and families running away. Yugoslavia eventually split into 7 independent countries: Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Montenegro, North Macedonia, and Kosovo. Today, Yugoslavia doesn't exist anymore, but it still brings up strong feelings and fond memories for people who remember when it was one country. Ceylon sounds exotic, right? That's the old name for Sri Lanka, which is an island in the Indian Ocean right below India. For centuries, Ceylon was a target for European colonizers. First, the Portuguese showed up in the 16th century, then the Dutch in the 17th century, and finally the British in the 19th century. The British turned the island into a giant tea plantation, and it was tea that made Ceylon famous all over the world. Even today, when we see Ceylon tea in the store, we use that old name, even though the country in that form doesn't exist anymore. After the Second World War, Ceylon gained its independence. That happened in 1948, but the British still kept their influence. It wasn't until 1972 that the country changed its name to Sri Lanka. This was a symbol of the end of its colonial past and a way to show its own identity. Today, Sri Lanka is a tourist paradise, full of temples, tea fields and smiling people. But the name Ceylon still sounds like an echo from history. For hundreds of years, Tibet was an independent kingdom and the spiritual heart of Buddhism. It was home to the most important monasteries, and the Dalai Lama's power combined both religious and political roles. For a long time, Tibet was cut off from the world, hard to reach, surrounded by the Himalayas. But in the middle of the 20th century, history changed its fate. In 1950, the Chinese army marched into Tibet. A year later, the so-called 17-point agreement was signed. It was supposed to give Tibet its own rule, but in reality, it put Tibet under Beijing's control. In 1959, the Tibetan uprising began. Tens of thousands of people took to the streets demanding freedom. The uprising was brutally crushed and the 14th Dalai Lama fled to India, where he lives to this day, leading a government in exile. Since then, Tibet officially exists as an autonomous region of China, but its independent state is no more. For many people around the world, however, Tibet has remained a symbol of freedom, spirituality, and the fight to keep its culture alive. The Ottoman Empire, a country that for centuries inspired respect and fear. It started in the second half of the 13th century, and for over 600 years it was one of the biggest powers in the world. At its peak, it covered huge areas from the Balkans through the Middle East, all the way to North Africa. In the 16th century, the Ottomans controlled the lands of modern-day Turkey, Greece, Bulgaria, Egypt, Syria, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and many other countries. The capital of the empire was Constantinople, which used to be Byzantium, captured by Sultan Mehmed II in the year 1453. Since then, the city has been known as Istanbul, a big city where cultures from the east and west met. For centuries, the Ottoman Empire was known for its amazing buildings, mosques with huge domes, palaces for sultans, strong fortresses, but also for its great variety. Muslims, Christians, Jews, and other groups lived within its borders. The decline began in the 19th century. The empire fell behind the modern European powers more and more. The final end came with the First World War. After it finished in the year 1923, the Republic of Turkey was formed from the ruins of the empire. Today, countless old buildings and cultural influences are all that's left of the Ottoman Empire. Walking through Istanbul, Sarajevo, or Cairo, we can still feel how huge that old power was. Prussia, a country that for centuries was respected and feared throughout Europe. Its beginnings go back to the 13th century, when the Teutonic Knights conquered the lands by the Baltic Sea. Over the years, Prussia became a kingdom, and later one of the most important German states. It was in Berlin, the capital of Prussia, in the 19th century, that its military and administrative power grew. Prussians were known for their strictness, a well-organized army, and a love for order. The saying Prussian discipline is still used today to mean very strict military rules. In 1871, Prussia became the main force behind the unification of Germany. The Prussian king, Wilhelm I, was crowned German emperor in Versailles. From that moment on, Prussia was the core of the entire German Empire. But after the Second World War, history took a dramatic turn. In 1947, the Allied powers officially dissolved the Prussian state, seeing it as the cause of German militarism. Today, Germany and Poland share the old Prussian lands, and Prussia now only exists in history books. Czechoslovakia was formed after World War I in the year 1918. It was a modern country that brought together Czechs, Slovaks, and minority groups like Germans, Hungarians, and Rusyns. Prague was one of Europe's most beautiful cities, and Czechoslovakia itself was seen as one of the most developed countries in the region. Sadly, in 1938 the country was forced to give up some of its land to Hitler. This was called the Munich Agreement. A year later, Czechoslovakia pretty much stopped existing, and after the war, it became part of the Soviet bloc. Czechoslovakia came back after World War II, but its end only came in more recent times. In 1993, the country peacefully split into two independent nations, the Czech Republic and Slovakia. This is one of the few examples where a breakup happened without war, and today both countries live in friendship. The Soviet Union, for decades, a superpower that competed with the United States for world domination. It was formed after the October Revolution in 1917 and officially in 1922. It was a giant country. It covered 1/6 of the entire Earth's surface. It included 15 republics, from Russia through Ukraine and Kazakhstan, all the way to Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. During World War II, the Soviet Union played a key role in defeating Hitler, but it paid a terrible price for it. Over 20 million people died. After the war, the Cold War began, which was a big competition with the USA, an arms race, the space race, blockades, and crises. But the communist system couldn't stand the test of time. In the 1980s, the economy fell into a crisis, and the republic started wanting independence. In 1991, the Soviet Union officially stopped existing. 15 new countries were formed in its place. Even today, for some it's a symbol of power and victory, and for others, of oppression and enslavement. After World War II, Germany was split. In the West, the Federal Republic of Germany was formed, and in the East, the German Democratic Republic, or GDR. Officially, it was a people's democracy, but in reality, it was a full communist dictatorship controlled by the Soviet Union. The Berlin Wall, built in 1961, became a symbol of this division. It separated families, friends, and even everyday life. The GDR was known for its secret police, the Stasi, which spied on citizens, and for its propaganda of success. At the same time, the country achieved great success in sports, especially at the Olympic Games, where it won hundreds of medals. The fall came suddenly. In 1989, the Berlin Wall came down, and a year later, the GDR joined with West Germany. Today, this country no longer exists, but Eastern Germany still differs mentally and economically from Western Germany. Today, Hawaii is the 50th state of the USA, but it used to be an independent kingdom. It was formed at the beginning of the 19th century when King Kamehameha the Great united the Hawaiian Islands. The Kingdom of Hawaii was recognized internationally. It had its own treaties, flag, and embassies. The kings and queens tried to modernize the country while keeping their Polynesian culture alive. But in the second half of the 19th century, American sugarcane planters started to gain more and more power. In 1893, the last queen, Liliuokalani, was overthrown by a group supported by the USA. A few years later, Hawaii was taken over by the United States. For many people in Hawaii, this is still a painful topic. Their kingdom stopped existing, but the memory of it lives on. And finally, something exotic, the Sultanate of Zanzibar. This country existed on an island off the coast of East Africa, which is now Tanzania. It was a major hub for the spice trade and sadly also for the slave trade. In the 19th century, Zanzibar was under the rule of Omani sultans who moved their capital there. This made the island a center of wealth, Arab culture and trade. The shortest war in world history happened right here. In 1896, the British bombed the Sultan's palace. The war lasted only 38 minutes. Zanzibar quickly became a British protectorate. Finally, in 1964, the Sultanate of Zanzibar was overthrown, and the island joined with Tanganyika, forming what we know today as Tanzania. As you can see, the world is always changing. Countries pop up and then disappear, and borders are just lines on a map that move over time. Yugoslavia, Ceylon, Tibet, the Ottoman Empire, Prussia, Czechoslovakia, the Soviet Union, East Germany, the Kingdom of Hawaii, and the Sultanate of Zanzibar. Each of these countries had its moment and its importance. And even though they don't exist anymore, they still live on in culture, buildings, and people's memories. Which of these countries surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, hit that subscribe button and give it a thumbs up so you don't miss out on future videos. Thanks for watching. See you in the next episode. Take care. Bye for now.